Thank you. And this one, this is a new one, a fairly new one. It's called Towers Fall. Look in that mirror, look in your eyes if you want to make it out alive. Let the darkness go, then light will find its way inside. It's time to make peace with the demons that live within. Feel the warmth surrounding, all encompassing like roots in the ground. All connected as one. In the truth of love. Hush now, can you hear it? The crunch of leaves not far behind as ego crashes into the ground. Cutting dead roots from past, shooting straight into the light. Feel the warmth surrounding, all encompassing like roots in the ground. All connected as one. In the truth of love. Energy is dancing, energy is flowing, uniting. While the body stays astray. Taking connection to a whole new level. And I surrender. And I surrender. And I surrender to the infinite wisdom and flow. Feel the warmth surrounding, all encompassing like roots in the ground. All connected as one. In the truth of love.
Connection, where old-fashioned romance meets modern-day technology.
And now, here's the host of our Love Connection, Jodi Eichelberger. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our version of Love Connection, Story Night style. I'm Jodi Eichelberger, and first I want to start off by thanking our guest musician that some of you heard during our pre-show tonight, Jennifer Whittaker.
Thank you.
That was amazing, Jennifer. Now, is all of your music original, or are you doing covers of certain artists?
All of the ones that I played tonight are original. Sometimes I do covers, but not very often.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So the classic question is always, like, what comes first, the melody or the lyrics?
Yeah, it really kind of depends on the time of the night when it comes to my mind. Sometimes I'll just get a riff that comes to mind and I'll start playing and the lyrics will come. Sometimes the lyrics come and then an instrumental I have matches perfectly and
nice.
And it goes together.
Well, that's our first love connection right away, is loving your music. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
We got more love to spread out tonight because we want to thank our sponsors. We have our new show sponsor this year, Bailey Glasser. That's a national company, law firm, who just opened a branch in Boise and wanted to get to know Boise by becoming a sponsor for this show. So we're very grateful to them. And of course, our season sponsor, which is the Pettit Group, Realty Sotheby's International. They've been with us now for several years, and we're super pleased to have their continued support, even as we've transitioned from a show that has 500 people in front of me to what we have tonight, which is our photographer, Chelsea Hirata, and our storytellers, and our board president, who's running the Zoom. I see some comments coming in already. We love you, Pettit Group. Oh, that's from us, isn't it? Is that Story Night that said that? Well, it's true. We do love Pettit Group. So if you haven't found, getting to know your environment there, if you haven't found the chat section of your screen, feel free to open that and share comments. One thing about doing this show in a studio like this is it's actually pretty isolating, and we love sensing the audience. We can see some of you on your screens, which is lovely. That helps us have a connection to audience. Some of you have some beautiful virtual backgrounds, and some of you, I can tell you've been home a lot because your house looks impeccable. Everything you've been cleaning, it looks beautiful. The house plants are alive. I don't know if that's a new thing for you, but I can see that they're doing well, which is wonderful. It's a Tuesday night, Love Connection. Someone's just written in there, Jennifer. Oh, that's Jennifer. Hi, Jennifer. I love Story Night and Jodi's hair. Oh, Amy, you had to bring up my hair. Well, so I have not cut it since the season started. I don't know. I mean, maybe it's okay, but for me, I just haven't felt comfortable going in and doing that right now. Also, I'm reaching a life goal of looking more like Chuck Woolery, who was the original host of Love Connection in the 80s. He also hosted Scrabble, and that he had a career as a game show host. Love Connection, for any of you who don't know, was a show all about bringing people together through modern technology, which at that time I think was a VHS tape. And they would do interviews for dating. The show would send them on a date, and they would come into the studio and tell us about their first date, and the audience got to vote on whether they would go out with somebody else or if they would go for a second date with that same person. Of course, well, maybe not all of us. Maybe it's saying something about me that I always hoped for the disaster dates. Those were the ones that I enjoyed. Hearing the ones that went spectacular wrong, that were super cringeworthy. We're not going to have any of that tonight because all of our storytellers are amazing, and we're going to introduce our guest curator tonight in the style of Love Connection. Let's meet Angie Smith, and we'll see up on the screen here Angie Smith. Oh, I see people applauding. That's great. Angie Smith is a photographer here in town, and maybe her profile is going to come up. I'm not sure. Well, I don't see her profile, but I see Angie Smith. So welcome. Oh, is that? Nope. That's one of your photos that's now come up in the background. Well, we're going to have some fun with the technology tonight, too. I did want to say, too, though, check your reaction screens. You can do that. If we have an opportunity for slams, you can also hit the raise hand button, which I think is at the bottom bar of that reaction button. Angie, I don't hear you yet. Do we have audio with Angie?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Wonderful. Well, maybe we'll catch that love connection status a little bit later when we bring up one of our storytellers. But what people are, I think, is in our background here. Yes, it's right behind me. Is I first became aware of you when I was, I don't know, somewhere in the Linen District. And I don't know where I was headed, but there was this crazy line wrapped around the Linen Building going like around the block. And I, being the curious person I am, I was like, hey, what are you all doing? Where are you headed? What's going on? And they're like, oh, we're here to see Stronger Shines the Light by this photographer, Angie Smith. I was like, wow, she must be the bomb. And then later, I think that show then spread all over Boise. It was printed and put up outside, so as you were walking by, you could see it. And as we see on here, this year, you got the cover of the New York Magazine, the New York Times Magazine. That must be like one of the ultimate goals of a photographer. Is that correct?
Yes, this was definitely one of item on my bucket list for years and was a career milestone. The cover came out in September for their education issue, and I spent about a month photographing schools, kids going back to school across the state in the middle of the pandemic and what that looked like in Idaho.
Oh, right. I wonder if, so this picture was taken in Idaho. I wonder if the New York Times Magazine readers didn't even know that. They're like,
Yeah, it was taken in Twin Falls.
oh, that's so awesome. And I
Yeah.
know you worked for other magazines as well. I think you had something in Cosmopolitan, and so you do both the highbrow and the lowbrow, apparently.
Yeah, Cosmopolitan, Travel and Leisure, Bloomberg Business Week, all different types of magazines.
That's so great. And we have you here in Boise. I feel so lucky. Although I know you are traveling all the time, doing different assignments in different places, but right now Boise has been your home. And tell us about 19 Love Stories. When did this project come to your mind, and how did you come up with doing it?
So I started 19 Love Stories about a year ago, right in the beginning of the pandemic. It was pretty much the first month of the pandemic, and I got sick. I don't think I had COVID, but nevertheless, I quarantined for 2 weeks. And during that time, all I could really do was spend time on the computer, and I was watching people posting within Boise on different Facebook groups. There's a various mutual aid groups that I was watching, and I was noticing all of these posts that people were making that either needed help or resources or food, or people that had food or resources to give people in need were posting in these mutual aid groups. So by watching them, I just started to notice all of these amazing things that people were doing for one another, whether it be strangers or neighbors or friends or family. And I was really inspired by it. And I realized that I wanted to start a new project that really told these stories of giving that were behind these posts. And I wanted to tell the more full and complete story and create an original portrait for each person and meet them where they were at, whether they were living in a hotel or had to move out of their apartment. There were just so many people dealing with a lot of unexpected situations, but I wanted to create a project for the community of Boise that would take a deeper dive into the ways that the community was showing up for one another.
Wow, and we should say that Angie originally was going to be with us here in the studio tonight, but actually, due to recent exposure, she's had to quarantine again, so she's all alone joining us for these people that she's gathered for us to hear from tonight. But let's take a look at some of the images from 19 Love Stories, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about how storytelling is a part of your photography. We have a slideshow that has some of the images that you've collected, and here it's starting now. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really began the project by reaching out to, random people that I found on Facebook, and as well as just taking long walks and looking for people that, looked like they were doing something that they would only do because we were in the middle of a pandemic. So I ended up finding such an interesting range of people, from owners of restaurants that were trying to hang on to their business, to these two women featured with the masks who have made over 2,000 masks and gave them away for free, to this gentleman who actually was picking people up that had been infected with COVID and bringing them to the hospital. This man who held a sign over the interstate for 30 days straight saying, "Thank you, truckers," to Fatuma here, who graduated from BSU virtually. She was the first person in her family to graduate from college. So there were all these really seminal moments that took place during the pandemic where we had to do a certain activity that we never imagined having to do in a way that was isolated from others. But by creating a story around it and taking a deeper inquiry into that person's life and what that moment meant to them, was just a way that I could introduce people to within our own community in a new and more in-depth way.
Well, I think some of our audience is going to recognize a few of those photos that flashed by. And what's nice, though, is you have both Boise icons like Senator Sherry Buckner Webb, who, of course, is a face that many of us know, mixed in with people who haven't had a public face. So that's pretty neat. Let's go ahead and meet our first contestant joining us for a date with Angie. We have another video introducing this speaker. We'll see if this one cues up. Here it comes. This is Rebecca Evans, and she actually told us our age. We don't, of course, normally ask that. She's a writer, poet, teacher, and mom. Her dating status is, some days she can't remember. I know I've been, I didn't finish reading it before it went away. I can't read as fast as I can type, apparently. But she's actually in the studio with us right now. Let's welcome to our stage Rebecca Evans. Come join me up here on our Love Connection set. Hi, Rebecca.
Hello.
Now, Rebecca, this is not your first time at Story Night, because she was part of a Slammer of the Year show, which happened at the Boise Depot. She told a slam and then was picked for being one of the best stories of the year, and came out, and we had a fun time that. So it's fun to have you back.
Thank you. I love Story Night, Story Studio, and just sharing stories. So I think it's an amazing ability to connect with each other and, learn a lot about each other. So I love it.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Yeah.
Very brave of you.
It wasn't me. It was Angie, because she requested to have a date with you. So Angie, how do you contact Rebecca for tonight's show?
Well, I met Rebecca back in 2015 because she featured me on her television show called Our Voice at the time. And we hit it off and had a wonderful conversation. And I just kept her number and kept her information and just reached out periodically for different things that I thought would interest her. And then as soon as I was on the hunt for an amazing love story for 19 Love Stories and this presentation, I wanted to reach out to her and see if she knew of anyone or perhaps had a love story herself, and she did.
The pressure's on. You're like an actual TV personality. I'm just posing tonight.
No, I just pretend to be one on TV. TV personality.
I guess that's what we're all just pretending.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long ago was the show, Our Voices?
So,
right?
Oh, go ahead, Angie.
Well, we met in 2015, but you had the show for many years, right?
Right. I did a fitness show here in Idaho for about 8 years on KTVB, and then I hosted our Idaho Living for a couple years on CBS, and then Our Voice for a couple years, again on KTVB. So I bounced around a little bit, mostly hosting and torturing people. It was awesome. Yeah.
I sort of enjoy torturing people too. All right. Well, we're not going to be tortured tonight because I know you have a wonderful story to share with us about your love connection.
My love connection.
Yeah.
Yes.
So why don't you just go ahead and head up to the mic and let us learn about your love.
I'm going to toss my mask aside so I can use my hands. I use my hands when I talk. So Love stories. First of all, I'm so excited to be here. And I think of love stories, and there are so many ways people love, right? There's romantic love, and there's parental love, sibling love, your neighbor love. You can love a project, right? I'm going to talk about crazy Jewish love, which you might not know about. So I'll start here. I taught my sons to pee standing up. We'll just leave that for a minute and I'll give you the image, okay? So I have my 1-year-old strapped into a bouncy seat, and I have my 2 sons who seem like twins, but they're not. I have an older son who's disabled, and he's toddler-like at the time, and then his younger brother, who's my middle son, Preston, who's a toddler. And I'm trying to teach them to aim for the toilet, right? Just aim for something, really, at that age. And I'm tossing in Fruit Loops, and I'm telling my oldest son, aim for the green ones. And I'm telling my middle son, go ahead and aim for the orange ones. And I'm kind of backing out of the bathroom. And I'm doing this because I'm a single mom. And I take my job seriously. And I want to make sure that I'm raising these boys into men. And them crossing swords and aiming for the toilet felt like an important thing for me to teach them. A few years later, I'll teach them how to shave their face, which again, I don't know how to do this, and I didn't know how to pee standing up, just for the record. But I gather their little hands, I fill them up with shaving cream, and we load up our face, and I'm telling them, go ahead, pull your skin, pull it gently. And I had a Google search how to shave a face, right? But again, I'm taking my job seriously. I want them to learn. I want them to feel like they have a chance at being good men, right? So my middle son continues to grow. He surpasses his older brother in a lot of capability and life skill arenas, and he's the first one to learn to drive. Now, I look at teaching your son to drive, it's not just an anxious-filled event, but it's an opportunity, because you have this child alone in the car and their undivided attention. So I thought of it as my parental office, and I would bring props. This is a great opportunity to teach him all kinds of life skills. So we'd pull in as he's driving along, and I'd have some prop with me, something that I felt important to teach him in this captured moment. One time, for example, we pull up to a stoplight, and I take out a banana and a condom. And I'm like, listen, we're going to learn about safe sex, right? I think people in Star, as we pulled up to that same stoplight over and over, got used to seeing us, and they didn't know what to expect from me. And my son is still in therapy to this day from some of my parental advice during that time. But something happened in that year. He was about 14 or 15, trying to get his driver's license. And most kids at that time are also trying to find their autonomy. And I call it the season of hating, where they flip a switch and they suddenly just hate their parents and they hate most people in authority. So I was no different. I was the target of a lot of anger. And of course, this was heartbreaking for me as a mom, as a Jewish mom. I'm trying to connect with him, and he is just full of anger, and we are fighting. We're fighting about everything. You know, he wants to stay out as late as he can. He thinks good grades are stupid, along with any meal is stupid, and getting a good night's sleep is even dumber. And we're just fighting and fighting and fighting. One morning, we're driving to school. He's driving. It's inclement weather, so it's raining outside. The roads are slippery, and the other 2 children are in the back of the car. And he's going, to me, too fast. He's actually going the speed limit, but he's going too fast for inclement weather. And I keep telling him, slow down, slow down. And we're in this fight in the car, and he's telling me, you know, he's going the speed limit. This is how I drive. He's imitating me. I mean, if you're a parent, you've heard these stories, the hating season. And I'm thinking in my mind, I have to do something because I want to get his attention. So when we get to the intersection of Highway 16 and Floating Feather Road, I yank on the emergency brake. So the car comes to a halt, and I get out of the car, and I stomp around in the rain, and I open his door, and I say, I'm driving, move over. Now, in the moment, I really thought he was going to drive off and just leave me standing there in the rain, but he didn't do that. And in that moment, I thought, surely he'll get out of the car and walk. He was just that angry because he screamed, you're psycho. Actually, he screamed something worse than that, but I don't think I should say it on TV. But he was so angry, and I just wanted in that moment, like, for him to trust me. Like, maybe I know something. I have his best interest, and we're struggling. He scoots over. I drive the boys to school. And on my way home, I'm thinking, you know, this is the journey. Boys to men. And this boy, I mean, he has been my boy. He's been the leader in my little group, in my tribe. and it's breaking my heart. This boy, he stood in line with me at food banks when we had nothing. This boy, he saw his father beat me before I could leave that marriage. And this boy has kept me going. This boy I fought for, I would die for, and I am dying inside because he's so angry with me. And it feels like it's lasting forever. We continue to fight. We have a few choice words, and there is one point where he tells me, "You have no idea what I'm going through. You know, Mom, my friend took his life." And there's a pause. And not even a month later, he has another friend who dies at an intersection right in front of his school. And then he has his first girlfriend, and they're breaking up, and they're dysfunctionally making up, and then they're breaking up and dysfunctionally something else over and over again. And I realize my boy isn't really hating, he's hurting. And I was hurting for his loss, but really now I'm hurting more for the loss of him and his losses, the loss of everything. And I'm feeling this, and I don't know how to reach him. I just know he's suffering. So I come up with this plan. I don't know what else to do, but I'm a writer. So I think this is what I'm going to do. I show up with a journal in his room, and I said, "Listen, you can say anything you want to me in this journal. Ask me anything. And we won't talk about it. We won't even speak about it. You can leave it in my room, in my nightstand, someplace secret. And I've already written some stuff in here for you. Tell me where I can leave it in your room." And he kind of points and grunts. So there's communication. The door is open, and I'm excited. I leave the journal, and off I go. And we spend a few months back and forth with this journal, back and forth. And there are some harsh things that brought me to my knees, things that made me cry and kept me up. Questions he asked that I had a tough time answering, but I promised myself I would answer. He asked me, things like, "Did you ever consider taking your life?" Try writing that answer in a journal to your son, and he's struggling. We got through it. And a few months later, we find ourselves face to face. We're sitting at a diner, just me and him, which rarely was happening at the time. And he starts unpacking some of his stuff. He starts sharing with me. He felt like he was responsible somehow for his friend's death. He felt helpless and hopeless, and he's struggling with this relationship that is on its final breakup. Thank God they're not together anymore. He has a new girlfriend who's great, but he'd been struggling, and he looks at me and he says, "Do you have any relationship advice?" And of course, I start laughing because I've been single 10 years, and I'm like, not my wheelhouse. I really don't have anything for you here, but I'm so glad he's asking me for advice about something. And we continue on. He eventually becomes an aide for his disabled brother, who is now a disabled adult. And I hear him in the other room, and he's teaching Zach. He's teaching Zach, or reteaching Zach, how to shave his face. And I hear him say, pull your skin, make it smooth. You got this, buddy. And I'm like, okay, he's doing it. He's growing into this good man, this kind man. And he's kind to his girlfriend. And we celebrate holidays. Like for Valentine's Day this year, he laid out yellow flowers, daisies, and a card that had all his brother's signatures. And I woke up in the morning and I was just like, oh, what a good kid. This is so wonderful. Of course, his little brother gave it away later when he said, I never signed that card. So then I find out he forged their signatures, what I'm a little concerned about, but it was still a sweet gesture. At one point, he tells me, I don't believe in God, Mom. I'm done. Like I lost hope. It's not a thing for me. I know you love celebrating our family traditions. We have a lot of traditions as a Jewish family, and I'll join in, but I'm not invested. And I tell him, I don't blame you, Preston. It's okay. It's okay. And we have a conversation, and it's shortly after he completely rearranges his schedule, and he sits down at Shabbos dinner, which is every Friday. And he sits down with a smile, and he holds my hand, and he says a blessing. And I know he doesn't mean it, but he knows it means something to me. And that's the kind of love we get to share. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you can take. Thank you for that beautiful story. Oh, Rebecca, great. I see people clapping on their screens. That's wonderful. let's Angie, that was a wonderful date. Thank you for. It sounds like you two had a great experience there. We're seeing some feedback here. Beautiful. So glad my 10-year-old son. What? I'm moving closer so I can read better. So glad my 16-year-old son overheard. Oh, okay. This is becoming a teaching moment. Wonderful. All right, I think we have a chance, since we do typically curated stories intermixed with a community story slam, maybe we'll have some strumming guitar here for this little segue. We will open up an opportunity for a slam story. So if there's somebody out there wants to share a 5-minute story inspired by the theme Love Connection, go ahead and hit a reaction button, or the raise hand button raises you up to the top of our chat screen. And you'll have 5 minutes to share a story, and it looks like we may have already selected a person here. Hello, person. I can't read your name from where I am, but you have a white chest of drawers behind you. You're wearing glasses, and if you unmute your mic, can you say hello to us?
Hi, I'm Nicole Force.
Hi, Nicole. Nice to
Hi.
meet you. And are you here with us in Boise?
I am, yeah.
Great. Well, this is a family show, so keep that in mind.
Okay.
We're starting your story at 7:27, so around 7:32 is when we're gonna cut you off. So take it away and share your Love Connection story.
My husband's work takes him to many far off, strange places, but not often desirable vacation destinations. So when his contract took him to India, it seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. He texted a photo to me of him sitting at an open air cafe in front of a green painted wall that was exquisitely painted with dancers amid tigers and lions. A perfect meal is in front of him. The centerpiece is a whole stuffed lobster swimming in crimson red curry. The table is set for 4, and my wine glass is directly across from his. Although I secretly worried that we were spreading ourselves too thin, our travel agenda covered a lot of space. People encouraged me to throw caution to the wind and just go see the country. And when is there not some kind of flu virus floating around? I assured myself, after all the rigmarole to get my family there to meet him, that I would still find myself practicing yoga on a hot beach, my hands intertwined in the sea breeze, my children playing in the surf, my husband waiting after practice for me at an open air cafe with a Primity treats. Overnight, he texted me to say that they're worried about coronavirus. They're going to start closing borders. As his coworkers left one by one, I suppressed nightmarish fears of him stuck in a military facility or quarantined in a hotel for 6 months. This could have happened. The day before the borders closed, he got a call from the airlines to take the last flight, and he did take that, during which my mother and brother-in-law, who's a physician, called me to encourage me to quarantine him away from the family. While I couldn't quite bring myself to pariah him, we did take precautions. I used his pickup truck to retrieve him from the airport to avoid contaminating our family car or exposing a cab driver. Before the children embraced him at home, I forced him into a hot, soapy shower, even after his 30 hours of anxiety-ridden layovers and flights. I sanitized his clothes in the wash, and I boiled his shoes. He did pass out in the bed. And the next day, my new sunset-colored buff headwear became a ad hoc grocery store face mask. But an interesting thing happened during this time. We realized we had become so busy with our daily lives that we hadn't really taken the time to determine the places our family most wanted to see. We hadn't reserved that quintessential overnight train ride clanking down the tracks through the fields and countryside of India, though we said we would do this. We always said we would do this thing. And although I had imagined the wells of India, the steppe wells. Until I spoke to him, I had no idea of the significance. The verdant green surfaces are rife with life, and the steps going down to these giant pools of water are like an inverted ziggurat, where people have gone for thousands of years to get personal respite, resources, and connect with their community. Now that I know, I'll make sure that we see several, and well off the beaten track. When the hustle and bustle of our daily lives ground to a halt, we finally reviewed pictures from my husband's trip. A monkey sways and trots across trains and lanes in front of a police station. A tuk-tuk with hand-painted patterns and corbels sways down the street like an elephant. And a family of 5 smiles as they mount and ride a single motorcycle. In other photos, my husband dashes into tourist stops before getting on his plane, and the inscription of the bureaucratic offices that he goes to reads, "A liberty will not descend to a people. A people must raise themselves up to meet liberty." How did I miss this the first time? In his final photo, it shows him shopping at the market to get presents for the family. He got soapstone figurines for the children and a embroidered pashmina for me. And he also for himself got a hand sketch picture of Krishna and Radha gazing upon each other, which is in fact a depiction of the ultimate union. Our conversations have shifted from logistics to purpose. Our kids really understand that this kind of thing might only happen once in a lifetime, never twice the same way. And for my part, I am more than touched to realize just how much he thinks about us while he is away, and how desperately he wants to share that with me. It's precious, and it will be well worth the wait.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Oh, well, Angie, you didn't get to go on a date with Nicole, but maybe some point in the future, maybe Angie will reach out to you, Nicole, and you'll become another love story. Boy, and aren't we all just anxious to go on a vacation and travel? That's so sweet that you have that record in photography, Angie. It's back to your medium.
Yes, yes.
So who is your next date with though tonight? Who will we meet next?
We are next meeting Michelle and Javier Andrade. And they are the famous owners of Andrades Mexican restaurant on Overland. And I met them right in the beginning of 19 Love Stories. They were one of my first interviews because they had really stepped up from the very beginning to start helping the community in a multitude of ways. But the way that I first heard about was that they were giving free meals to free lunches, but probably any meal if someone stopped by the restaurant and needed to eat, they would feed them, no questions asked. And I actually had have a family connection to Michelle and Javier. So I'd known of them, but I'd never actually met them in person. So it was really special to meet them in person for the first time under these circumstances to honor the way that they were giving back to the community.
And I get to meet them in person tonight because they're here in the studio with us. Welcome to our stage, Michelle and Javier. All right. I have to say, though, Javier, your mask in the photo here looks way cooler than the one you're wearing tonight.
Well, I want to say that any mask looks cooler than this.
Please have a seat. So one thing that's a little different about our format tonight, normally we, as the other storytellers have done, they go and take it away at the mic and we kind of just let them run with it. But tonight with this 19 love stories and love connection, we're actually going to do this next segment as kind of like we as the Story Night community get to go on a date with Angie and this couple. I guess you're a, what is that phrase? A throuple. Is that a thing? I don't know. It sounds fun. So Angie and the Andrades are going to take us on a little story date together right now. So go ahead, Angie.
Great. Well, thank you again for joining us. And I would love to start with Michelle and Javier. Tell me about the moment you realized that you needed to start giving out meals to people in the beginning of the pandemic. What was there a moment that first inspired you, or how did you know that that was the next step you needed to take?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, Angie. Well, the beginning started really 19, almost 20 years ago when I opened Andrades. It's more noticeable right now. People know a little more about Andrades, and then we are in a need. That's why more people realize that we helping a little bit. But since I opened the restaurant 2001, right 2 months after September 11, 1 month, was really difficult time too. And then I always been feeding people that in a need. So this is just a continuation. People know now a little more, and the voice is around. So there is more people that wasn't in trouble, losing the job, and then it's just a continuation of love. Is it? Just giving Boise what Boise gave me many years ago. Boise gave me the opportunity to establish here, to make my life here, to find my love here, to have my family, and then I just it's a way to give back a little bit.
And I think you told me in our first interview that you had come to Boise as a young man and you loved it. And was it that you told yourself you would live here one day?
Well, it was a long time ago, 1977, when I came to Boise, and then of course Boise was so different, and then I went back. I went back to my country. I say if one day I want to live in one place out of my country, it's going to be Boise. In the early 1990s, we have a big recession down in my town. I have a restaurant too. I opened my first restaurant when I was 19 years old. And then I was over there waiting for somebody to come and buy something. And I said, well, I'm never going to do anything right here. So it's time to move on. And I remember Boise. So I said, well, I know how to cook. I know how to manage a restaurant. I'm going to go over there and ask for a job. I knock a lot of doors and I can't find a job. Finally, I got a job as a dishwasher, not as a manager, not as an owner, as a dishwasher. And then and I love it. I love it because it was an opportunity to start over again. And that was 1993. And I work hard since then. And I'm love it here. And it was the way the Andrades come together.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And Michelle, have there been any moments or interactions that you had in the last year with either a customer or an employee that really moved you or made you realize the impact of how you were giving back to people affected their lives?
Yeah, I've had a lot of opportunity to really talk to people. I remember one mom when we moved to a drive-through at the old restaurant, coming through the window, and she couldn't even speak through her tears because she was having such a hard time, and her children in the back seat. And she just looked up and smiled and silently said, the words "thank you." And I've had a lot of those, even tonight while at the restaurant before coming here. I spoke with a man who told me that they were in a bad situation, and him and his wife had heard that we were giving away meals and wanted to know if they could have dinner with us. And he said, I get paid in 2 days. I can come back and pay. And I said, no, we're here to help you, and we're happy to do it. And just the gratitude that everyone expresses on a daily basis. A few minutes after I took that phone call, I had a woman come in and buy a gift certificate and just thank us for what we're doing. And you get to experience the joy of giving to others, and then you get to share that with the community because they've given us a lot to be able to continue to give and to donate to people, and they experience that joy of giving as well.
And what if you both, or either one of you wants to answer the question, but what do you feel like you've learned about love this year?
Well, I learn about love every day. Having a restaurant that gives you the opportunity to talk with so many people. Living with a great person like I'm having here is an opportunity to know that love exists. And the restaurant people show up all the time. Michi yes say it. Somebody came today and say thank you for what you do. We do that all the time. So and this is not we are giving anything. People help us. It's Boise giving. That's why it's easy to give, because when people realize that you are helping another one, is somebody go to come and say, hey, I want to help you to help. So it's a chain of love. We just write a part of that chain that prepare the food and serve it to the people. Yeah.
So beautiful. And what, as you think ahead, what gives you hope? What gives you inspiration for where we're going as a community, where we're going as a city, your new restaurant, your family?
Yeah. Well, every day is a new day. And today is the best second chance that we have to do something better. And then it's been a tough year. I've been hit by COVID a couple times. It was tough. I've been hearing because I saw sad people, because I saw people to come and my restaurant, and then they're embarrassed to ask, and then over there in the corner and say, "Can I talk with you?" And then usually it's people that need to ask for help. And I lose my mom, I lose my dad, both this year. And then I have a hope. I wake up every day. We wake up every day, and then we go and open our door and waiting for somebody to show up and share the needs that they have or the love that they have with us, and we give wherever we can. I like to give hugs. It's no weight now, so I don't do that, but I give him a food. Yeah.
It's so beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing the story of your restaurant and the adventure and the journey that you've been on for the last year. As a community, we're deeply grateful for what you've helped inspire in people.
Well, no, thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to show what we do, and this is my real inspiration right here. If you want to talk about love, next time invite me and I can talk you a lot about love.
Oh, thank you so much for being part of Story Night tonight.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
And we have applause on the wall there for you. Someone saying hello. Wow, thank you for that, Angie. Boy, I have to tell you, like, it doesn't always happen, but it's so interesting to just be seated this far from this couple and just be able to feel so much love and passion for what they're doing, and just not only in the words, but just the energy coming from this couch over here. I also am much hungrier after that story. I really wish you guys didn't bring anything with you, did you? No. And it's probably the first time I've heard someone say that they had a job as a dishwasher and loved it. I'm now feeling a little guilty because that's my job at home, is to be the dishwasher. I guess I need to have a little more joy. Is it a good workout?
It's a great workout.
build some cardio and muscle. Awesome. It was a little disturbing, though, to hear you describe 1977 as a long time ago, because I was around in 1977, and it makes me feel I'm getting creaky this year. I've got more pops and things happening. Maybe I need to do more dishwashing to limber up my tendons.
Oh yeah, it'll do it.
All right, I'm just going to check in with the group here, see if there's anybody else out there who might have a short 5-minute story that they would like to share. If you do, you can hit a reaction shot, or that raise hand button makes it easier for our team to identify you, and you'll float up to the top of the screen. Also, I want to tell Michelle and Javier that we have a little prize for you as being our guest. One of our sponsors, the Idaho City Hotel, is offering a free night up at the hotel for you to come up there and enjoy that on a weeknight. If you ever have a weeknight that you can get away from the restaurant, it's only 45 minutes away. So maybe you can ask for late night check-in. There's an image of it right now. It's under new management and looks. Oh, look, you could be sitting out on the porch right there with a margarita. All right, I don't see a face. Oh, now it looks like I'm sitting on the porch. It's. I thought there'd be more snow in Idaho City. It's actually quite balmy here in February. Who knew? There's probably a lot more snow up there. I don't see a image of a person floating up onto the screen for a slammer, so what we're going to do now is something that we've started doing a couple of our other shows since we've moved to this platform, which is you'll have an option of forming your own love connection with a fellow audience member randomly by being broken up into a breakout room with maybe 3 or 4 other people. It's a chance for you to just find out, hey, why are you at Story Night tonight? Where are you? Sometimes we have people from all over the country. Maybe find out about something that they love or has been going on in their lives. For those of you that are not comfortable doing that, or if you go to the room and someone scares you out of the room, you'll come back here to the stage where we're going to have some more songs by Jennifer Whittaker. And we're going to join together again, but before we go to that break, I do want to read a little message from our show sponsor, Bailey Glasser. Bailey Glasser, a nationwide law firm born in West Virginia, taking on your toughest cases with a newly opened office in Boise. Clients rely on us to handle the most challenging and consequential legal issues regionally and nationwide. More online at baileyglasser.com, and you can find that link. It just appeared in the chat. So if you have a tough case, you can hit that link and you'll be on your way. All right, let's go ahead and go to those breakout rooms, or you can stay in here. We'll have a little break, and we're going to come back in, let's say 6 minutes, actually. We'll come back to the stage here for more stories and more love connections, more dates with Angie Smith. Thank you. Ah, beautiful. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Welcome back to Story Night's Love Connection. I'm just back here chilling in an armchair. I'm starting to get super used to this. I think I might do all shows sitting in an armchair. I don't know if I can get out of this chair. I might need Jennifer's help later on. Did anyone meet someone fun and have a love connection during a breakout room? Put in your chat there if you met somebody fun. We don't want to hear about it if you guys didn't get along. Well, I kind of do, actually, but you can write me later. Just private message me if it was a disaster. I'd love to hear those details, too. Angie, how are you?
Great.
Were you in a breakout room? I don't know. Or did you stay with us?
No, I was enjoying Jennifer's music.
It's so great. And I saw a really sweet message in the chat that was from your mom. That was so nice.
I saw that too, and I was like, oh, Mom.
And good for her, because I think for now maybe the third time, my mom has not been able to connect onto the show. I tried to help her today, but I don't see her name there. I don't think she made it on.
My mom is very tech savvy.
Oh, well, that's good. So, Angie, who are we going to have our next date with?
So our next date is with our featured musician, Jennifer.
Oh, I'm acting surprised.
Multi-talented. It was only in the midst of our interview did I find out that she was also a musician. So Jennifer and I met, it's been just under a year, and we met because I had reached out to her because I saw her post a Facebook posting in a mutual aid group, and I reached out to her directly and asked if she would like to be a part of the project. And we met at a really beautiful spot by the Boise River with her son, and we did a portrait and we did an interview, and that was just the beginning. So I'm really so honored that she's here tonight to share her story, and I'm just so excited about everything that's happened for her in the last year.
Great, Jennifer Whittaker.
See, that's what happens when I don't have a haircut in 6 months. Crazy mohawk. The crazy mohawk. Oh. So this last year has been crazy. And it already, before COVID, before anything, it already kind of started crazy. I moved here to Boise from Winnemucca, Nevada, almost 2 years ago. March 9th will be 2 years that I've been here in Boise. And I came with the aspirations of expecting it to still be the same Boise I fell in love with 15 years ago, and affordable and just expansive nature. And it's still the same, but affordable it is not anymore. And so we spent the first year and a half of living here living in my truck. Luckily I have a truck so that we have plenty of space to spread out with me and my dog and my kid, and we lived in our truck. And that, it was not an easy time, but for me it was pretty familiar, because before having a kid I chose the transient life. I chose to travel the country and live in small vehicles and small spaces and really explore and have fun before settling down and go into the grind and doing all the things that my family wanted me to do right away. So this was it was new. With a kid, that's a huge difference. That throws a huge curveball in things, because you have to pay more attention. You have to be closer to bathrooms and closer to amenities and find spots that are safer. Whereas by myself, I'd park anywhere and I'm just fine, because I'm secure within myself and safe. And I have a dog that you wouldn't want to break into that truck with. But so yeah, when COVID hit, when everything shut down, COVID hit, I was working full-time. I was working, almost full-time. We were just starting to build back up. I was working at the Riverside Hotel as a banquet cook, and we had just gone through our January, February time, where it was super, super slow and super hard. Money was already tight. I was within a couple days of getting paid. My money was gone, and I was having to utilize resources like going and eating at Andrades. And multiple times in this last year, you guys have fed my family. And yeah. And so when COVID came, I didn't know what to do. You know, we had just finally gotten out of the truck and into a hotel because it was too cold and it was too hard, and my son just couldn't handle it anymore. He wanted a space to be able to play, and he wanted a space to be able to sleep and not be right on top of me while sleeping, because in the truck we had our close quarters and it was tight. And so COVID hit, and there goes everything, all the stability that I knew, because my final paycheck before being laid off was only for about 12 hours. And out of that 12 hours, 70% of it went to go pay for my benefits that I couldn't use because I didn't have any money to go see any doctors or anything and pay the copay. And so I was left kind of high and dry. And, you know, it was hard. It was hard having to think about breaking that promise that I made to my son, that we would never have to live in the truck again, that we would be okay, and that we would move forward into a better life. And then suddenly, as I'm picking up my last paycheck, it dawns on me, why am I sitting here slaving, worrying? Because I have so many skills. I have so many skills in all of my traveling the world, the country, not I wish the world, but the country, from all the way from South America up into Canada and everything. I've picked up farming skills. I've been a chef for 15 years. I've been fencing, construction, electrical, everything. You name it, I can build on it and I can work on it and I can do it. Like, and if I don't know how to do it, I know how to use YouTube to figure out how to do it. And so in the middle of the night, I woke up one night stressing. Well, I didn't really sleep much, so stressed, a lot of stress, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of skipped meals, a lot of everything. And finally, racking my brain to figure out what I'm going to do, I finally came up with a plan, and treehouse farming was born. In the midst of everything and the hardship that has gone on, I used the hardship that I've gone through in my life already before, the constant struggle from a child raising myself basically, and trying to being the black sheep of the family, not fitting in, and had just a constant life of struggle. I finally decided that, I'm tired of the struggle. I'm tired of being in pain. I'm tired of stressing, tired of everything. And I want to help out my community at the same time. Because if it wasn't for this community, wouldn't have been as easy to get around, because like with Angie and the love stories, 19 love stories, that came from a mutual aid page, and we ate off of that mutual aid page a lot, and a lot of people gathered together to help us pay for a hotel to keep that promise to my son. And then I came up with the idea for treehouse farming, where I teach people how to grow their own food, because food insecurity is a huge, huge problem, especially with COVID and all the grocery prices going up, the gas prices going up, everything going up while people's money in their pockets is going down. And so I built my business and teach people how to grow their own food, and not just grow their own food, but grow with their food, and grow and plant with intentions in just about any living situation. Even living in a vehicle, you can still grow your own food. And so that has been my mission this last year, is to reach out and help people and to give back to the community as much as it has given to me. And a lot of growth, a lot of love has been learned. I have never been really one to connect with other people. I've been a lone ranger, a lone wolf for a long time, because myself is the only thing that I've ever known that I could trust, that I could believe in, that I can count on every single day. And to have a community that I didn't know, people I didn't know, meet so many people I didn't know, step forward and take care of us and make sure that we were taken care of. Being a single mom is not easy, especially without having a family to be there to back up for support, and doing it completely on my own. And so in this last year, I've learned the love for this community, and the reason I moved here, the reason that I will build here and keep growing here, and a lot of love for myself, to learn to be gentle with myself, because as hard as it is, I've got this, I've got this. Every day I still get up, every day I go to work. My schedule's a lot more flexible now, which is kind of nice to not be punching a clock anymore, and just go and pick up and work on gardens whenever, and help people and look for opportunities every day to help out the community and get through everything. Because together, that's the only way that we're going to get through this, is to connect and unite together and love together. And love is the most powerful force on earth. You look at frequencies, and it goes at a higher frequency than a negative feelings and negative emotions. And so I've just really pushing to get this community love going and help everybody work together, and learn to love myself and love my family and appreciate my family. I'm so appreciative. We've got into an apartment last July because of Angie's story that she posted about us. Somebody reached out, and through the programs that I've already tried to utilize on my own and had no such luck, I was able to get somebody to speak up for us. And within weeks of the story posting, we got moved into a home with help from our navigator, and help from Catch Housing, and help, and with our community help, we've been able to stay in our home and be happy, and have our own bedrooms, and have a playground full of kids for my son to go and play with, instead of being by himself and all the time, and having to use simple toys to play with because we didn't have room. And now we all have room, and overabundance of love, and business has surpassed the 200% growth mark in 10 months, and 90% of that business is barter. I refuse to turn away anybody just because they can't pay, because everybody deserves to eat, and everybody deserves to feel loved and have that compassion. And just because money is tight doesn't mean that anybody is unworthy of love and compassion. And and this next year, I foresee a whole lot more growth, and with opportunities like this to get out and speak the story, and speak of strength, and speak of love, and connect with the community. only more growth can come from here. And I look forward to connecting with Boise and getting more and more personal with Boise and loving everybody. Thank you, guys.
I think you have a song you want to share with us.
I do. Which is actually quite fitting. I didn't pick this featured song, but the story behind it, and it's titled The Story, is all about unconditional love. Unconditional love from the universe, unconditional love from God, unconditional love from your soul for yourself, and that no matter what you're going through, you can always find love, and it will always be there to fill the wounds and help you heal with love. Life has trained me for war, and there's nothing I haven't been through before. You can lay it all at my door. This is what I have been training for. So take the monsters right out of your head, and I will in their fiery bed.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Wow. And yeah, you deserve the world. You do. One of the things that story reminds me is, part of what we do at Story Night, only half of it is what Jennifer just did, which is sharing the story and telling the story. And the other big portion of it is hearing the story. And hearing is an action. And what means so much to me in the story you just shared is how someone heard the story. They saw the need. And boy, one of the moments here in the studio, and I hope you can feel it through your screen too, is when you acknowledge the Andrades for feeding your family.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh. Angie, are you crying right now? Because
Yes. Yes.
some tears going here. That was beautiful. And I think we have one more photo that Angie took. She mentioned the portrait of you and your son by the Boise River. If maybe here it comes up on behind the screen there.
That one. He's grown quite a bit since then.
Yeah, they grow fast at that age, don't
yeah.
they?
He's probably grown like 2 inches now.
Wow. Well, and here, and the little truck down there at the bottom. I
Always.
didn't notice that until now, a little toy truck. Beautiful shot. Well, this is not going to be one of my most suave segues, but I'm happy to know that this was a place that you liked to go to. Mm-hmm. But part of that was because you didn't have a home to go to, living in your truck, and now you do have a home. Yeah. And so I've chosen this moment to read. Well, I didn't really choose it. It's time for me to read the sponsor message from our season sponsor, the Pettit Group, who is all about finding people homes. Whether, at all different price levels, of course. But the Pettit Group is a small, thoughtful real estate team. Their passion is providing impeccable service with integrity. The Pettit Group supports local nonprofits through philanthropic giving, including Story Night. Visit us on Facebook and Instagram. We would love to form a love connection between you and your real estate dreams. Thank you, Pettit Group. And one of the other things that Pettit Group does is they support artists in our community. And one of those is by curating a group artist each month. And this month's artist works at the city of Boise. He is the manager of our public art. It's Carl Leclerc. And we have an image of a print that he made while he was at a residency. And I thought maybe this would be nice to give to you to hang in your house. And it just happened that this is one that where he was at this residency in Oregon, and there's this place where these spring water just kind of comes up out of nowhere, and they've built these fences around it, and then there's these random trees, and I think it's an old dried up lake bed, but there's still life there, and there's still a source of water coming in. So we're gonna connect you to this piece, and you can take it home and hang it inside.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, Angie, I'm not sure how much more my heart can grow.
Ooh, just one more. Does everyone have it in you to hear one more love story?
Yeah, you went on another date with somebody. Who did you go? Who is this date with?
Well, my last date was with another Angie, who it isn't very often that I meet another Angie, and her husband Marcus, and they have a very special, very long, many chapters of a love story, and they're going to give us a special rendition of that is sort of encapsulates these seminal moments of their love story.
Wonderful. And Angie and Marcus are joining us from their studio, their home. Here they are live on the bench, I believe. Angie and Marcus, thank you for being here tonight. I know you've been teaching classes, I think, all day. So we've extended your performative time today to share your love connection with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Jodi and Angie.
This is great, thank you.
So let's see, my name is Angie Marianthi, but that hasn't always been my name.
My name is Marcus Marianthi, and that hasn't always been my name.
So we're going to go back in time about 20 years ago. So Marcus and I are from the same small hometown, but even though we grew up in the same area, we somehow never crossed paths. We knew of each other. We both played music and knew that the other was musicians, but we never got to meet. I used to actually go see Marcus's band play at our local coffee shop, and he was a drummer, and he would play with his shirt off. It was very exciting.
Yeah, and Angie would play in the orchestra in the high school, and they would kind of play in the auditorium. So I would sneak into the auditorium and watch them play.
So we finally had our very first class together the last semester of our senior year before graduation. And Marcus sat behind me, and he was always drumming, and he would drum on the back of my chair and shake my desk. That's how we met.
And she would always look back, and of course we would be adorable and things like that.
So we'd share a look,
Yeah. And we became like project partners in this government class. And, we would hang out in the library and do our projects. And Angie even got to come over to the house and do some projects, which was cool. I got to show her my room. I had like a drum set in my room, and we looked through records. It was just very kind of cliche, but awesome.
Right. I tried to impress him with my knowledge of Led Zeppelin, that kind of thing. So the last time we ever saw each other in that era was actually on graduation night. And at that time, Marcus wrote in my yearbook, "Call me and we'll jam and make it big."
Yeah. So after graduation, I moved around the Northwest a bit for work, just living in different places and working. And a couple years went by, and I don't know if folks remember the beginning of social media apps, the MySpace. So each of our each of our bands had a MySpace, so we were able to reconnect through that. I sent Angie a message.
So I was in the computer lab at Boise State doing some homework on a Saturday because that was really cool, and saw this message pop up from Marcus, and I was just floored because I had actually tried to get in touch with him over the years, but I didn't know how to track him down. I didn't know where he moved to or anything. So he had moved to Portland, and we started emailing and talking on the phone, and 2 weeks later he drove from Portland over to Boise to visit me, and we've been together ever since.
Until tonight. Oh no, that's not true. Yeah, so after about 5 months of dating long distance, we got our first apartment in the North End here in Boise, back when you could, afford rent in the area.
And Marcus moved over.
Yeah, I moved over. And we started just kind of combining our lives. We were in our early 20s at that point. So just hanging with friends, playing music, that whole scene.
And we used to have these like house parties, just these get-togethers, and we really like to eat and drink. So we would do like a potluck, and everyone would bring a dish, and we'd just hang out with our friends, and inevitably we'd start playing music. And even though we were musicians, we didn't have a lot of musician friends. And so we would kind of, I guess, force our friends to play with us. So we'd just hand them an instrument and say, here's how this song goes, and here's how you can play. Like, you can just use one finger. It's no big deal. Here's how you can play along with us. Or we'd hand people like some spoons, and they'd keep the time and that kind of thing.
Yeah, it was great. So they kind of became infamous. We'd have these hootenannies, these kind of music parties, and people would talk about them, and we kind of became known for, in our little social circle, of the people who would have this.
And at the height of the hootenannies, we'd eventually moved up to the bench here. Actually, the Pettit group helped us get our house. Yay! So we started having these parties at our house, and at one point we had a hootenanny that had like 40 people, and every single room of our house had a different jam session going, and that was like one of my favorite memories, because it was just this house just full of music, and everyone was just so happy. So it was just really fun, a fun era for us.
Mm-hmm. Even our wedding, when we got married, we called the wedding the Hootenanny, because it was just kind of this big party with all of our friends, and music and dancing and food, and it just became great. And so, we got married, and then for our honeymoon, we ended up going to Greece, and Angie's family is Greek. So we've always wanted to go and check that out.
So we wound up in this tiny little town on a peninsula right there on the sea. And the town's name was Nikiti, and it's supposed to be the honey capital of Greece. It's just surrounded by just these beautiful olive groves and forests and fields, just a lot of diversity there. And it was just the perfect time of year to visit, too, because it was right before tourist season started. So the town was just empty, with the exception of the locals there getting their shops and businesses ready. So Marcus and I would just wander around the town every day, just eating and drinking. And once we had a fresh it was like a sugared fig from this this restaurant, and the owner said that his mother, or was it his grandmother? His grandmother had picked it that morning and candied it, and just beautiful things like that were happening. Do you want to tell them about the honey shop?
Yeah, so there was this kind of like honey shop ran by this couple, and the gal Marianthi, she would be the storefront, sell the honey, things like that, and then her husband would tend to the fields and the bees. And it was just such a cool little setup. And as Angie mentioned, it was before all the tourist season, so everybody had time to kind of hang out and talk with us, and we'd see them every day. So we developed a relationship with these folks, and would go there and just peruse the honey and put it on our bread every morning. And it was
just fresh baked bread every morning from all these different like honey locations. Like they had pine honey and clover honey, and it was just such a beautiful like sensory experience.
Yeah, I mean it was everything. It was just a great time in our lives, and we reminisce about this adventure all the time.
Yeah.
So I guess fast forward, then we get back to Boise, and we're just kind of doing our thing, working our day jobs, playing music in the evenings. We played in some kind of gigging bands and stuff at that point. And then Angie became pregnant. So we had our kid Felix, and
it was a bit of a surprise, if you want to be honest.
And Felix
and our friends didn't have babies yet either. So
yeah, we were kind of some of the first among our friend group at the time. And as people do sometimes when they have a kid, they reevaluate kind of what they want out of life, and we were no different. And it became kind of, how can we help in our community? What can we do to help people? And one of the things we realized is we can empower people through showing them how to play music.
Yeah, that was our favorite thing, and it was the thing that we were best at, and it was the thing that made us happiest. And so when Felix, our baby, was born, that was back in 2013, we just kind of had this like reawakening where we realized we needed to live intentionally. We couldn't just live day to day like we had been in our early 20s. So we quit our jobs. I know that doesn't sound very intentional, but we quit our jobs and we started a business called Boise Music Lessons. And our focus is teaching people to play music with family and friends and playing through song. So it became like our big family adventure at that point, and we've been doing that ever since.
Yeah, so we had a lot of fun, and then Angie became pregnant again. And with Felix, he integrated into our lives really well. He was just a pretty chill kid. He was always kind of with us. We used to, the baby carrying, we just carry him around everywhere.
We called him Party Baby because you could strap him on and take him anywhere. I remember our first tree fort that we ever played at, wearing him at 3 a.m., being like, am I a bad parent? But he's just sleeping and he's ready to party, go to shows.
Yeah, and he integrated in our lives really well. And then our second kiddo, Emrys, our daughter, she was kind of the opposite of this, where, man, she came in, Felix was born like in a birth tub in our kitchen with midwives and, candlelights and Jeff Buckley playing in the background, just beautiful. And Emrys was like, as the birth tub was filling up, she was born on the floor of the living room, and it was just
entered into life.
Yeah, it took like an hour.
Force.
Yeah, so she's always just kind of been that change, But once she came, it was the fourth member of the family band, and the whole dynamic just kind of changed in an instant.
Yeah, and it just shifted everything for us. Like I always expected there to be a bigger shift when we became parents. When Felix was born, but surprisingly it was Emrys that kind of made us realize that we were like a family. This is it. We're all here. We're all a team. We've arrived. So it was. She was about 3 days old and had already rocked our world. And the midwives came over to fill out the birth certificate for us, and they asked, "What is her name?" And we said, "Oh, her name is Emrys," and then we got to the last name. And when Felix was born, so I guess backtrack a little bit to our wedding. When we got married, we were pretty cool with who we were, separately and also together. So we didn't change our given names. And then when Felix was born, it was like, well, it's you and me, and we had a baby. So we just hyphenated our last names. It was kind of no big deal. But when Emrys was born, it felt like a little bit inauthentic. They said, "What's her last name?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I guess Felix's hyphenated name." But it didn't feel like we were me and you and some kids with a cobbled together name. It felt like we were a family, and something had changed, and it was just wrong. So it started kind of nagging at me, this feeling that we needed a family name. So I talked to Marcus, and I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so we had always mentioned the idea of like, oh, wouldn't it be cool to change the family name so we would all have the same name? But what would it be? You know, it was always kind of the idea of like, if we can find something that would be perfect, that would really embody us, that's what we would change it to.
So we started kind of just lightly talking about it a little bit, and one night I was laying in bed with little baby Emrys, and I was thinking, like, what is a time in our lives that was just perfect, and we had a perfect moment that I can go back to and feel at any time. And I thought back to like walking on the beach with Marcus in Greece and eating just the most delicious meals, talking to the most lovely people, smelling this beautiful honey. And I thought, Marianthi, the honey shop owner, that's the name. And I told Marcus, and he said, yep, that's the name.
Yeah, we love the idea. I mean, they were a family business. They were doing what they could do, you know, they were best at to help in their community. And it just...
They were working together as a partnership and a team.
Mm-hmm. So we decided to fill out the paperwork, and once everybody was ready, we went down to the courthouse and changed our names to be the same. It was something that represented us and something to allow us to kind of celebrate what the four of us meant.
Yeah, and our love for each other, and our just love for this family that we had become over the, you know, this like 20-year journey together. So I just want to reintroduce myself and say I'm Angie Marianthi.
And I'm Marcus Marianthi.
And the four of us are the Marianthi family.
Oh, thank you so much. That was beautiful. Love changes you, apparently, right? And on the basis of our few storytellers that we've had here tonight, it also seems like love turns you into a small business owner. So I'm not sure how that happened exactly. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And let's bring Angie back. And Angie, wow, what some amazing people you met, some amazing dates you've been on over the course of this partnership between 19 Love Stories and Story Night. Just really quickly, tell us how people can, like, where is 19 Love Stories going? How can people participate?
So 19 Love Stories is on Instagram and it's on Facebook. And I also have a Patreon account. And so you can become a subscriber on Patreon, and then you can get the email every time I post a new story or I publish a new story. You get emailed directly with the full version and all the photographs, whereas the Facebook and the Instagram page, I have to shorten them because of the caption limits. So there is a benefit to being a Patreon member. You get the full juicy version of all the stories.
And if someone has a story that they think you might be interested in, they can email you directly. Is that right?
Yes. In fact, in the chat, I'll put my email address. And anyone is welcome to email me if they know of an incredible story or if they have a personal one to share. I would love to hear about it.
That's action. There it is. There's her email right there. You can even write her about tonight's show if you want to. Thank you so much for being our guest on Love Connection tonight, Angie. It's been so great to go on this journey with you. And most of these people who've shared tonight are already on the page 19 Love Stories, so you can also go there and read more about them and see the original images that accompany those stories. And now we're coming back to the world of Story Night. It's time for us to say goodnight. That means that our Story Night theme song is going to appear here very shortly. There it is. It's like coming from the clouds, like an angel sitting up there. And I want to thank all of you for being with us tonight. Thank you to all our storytellers. If we can get the volume up a little bit on that track, there we go. Story Night receives support from the Boise Arts and History Department. I should say Story Night receives love from the Boise Arts and History Department and is supported by public funding for the arts through the Idaho Commission of the Arts, the Idaho Legislature, and the National Endowment for the Arts. Thank you to our media sponsor, Radio Boise, where we also have a monthly radio program the Sunday before our live show. Thank you to our crew, technical director and podcast engineer, Stephen Baldassare. Thank you to our photographer, Chelsea Hirata. Look for her photos to appear on our Facebook page in just a few days. Thank you so much to our guest musician and featured storyteller, Jennifer Whittaker. It was absolutely a pleasure to have you with me on stage tonight. Thank you to our volunteers and board of directors. Thank you to our story subscribers and those of you who added a donation to your ticket order. We really appreciate that. We are bleeding money as this season continues, but we're keeping going with the story. If you'd like to become a story subscriber and offer monthly support, text story to 44321 to support us as a subscriber. It was actually those subscriber donations that helped to pay Angie Smith as a curator for this show tonight. Thank you to Valiant Productions and the entire team for hosting us, and thanks again to Angie Smith. 19 Love Stories. You can see more on her project on Facebook. We're going to be back on the last Tuesday of March, and we're moving to the game show Jeopardy, and I'm doing something spontaneous and moving over here in order to finish the show with Story, Story Night. Story, Story, Good Night. Beginning, middle, now at the end. Authentic, inspiring, spontaneous. So thank you. You shared your stories and you really listened. I may have come here as a stranger, but now I'm leaving as a friend. And so the story doesn't end. Good night, everybody. Thank you for your continued support and being here to celebrate love, connections, and story. We'll see you at the end of March when we get into a little trouble with Jeopardy. Good night.